and wave hello to folks and just say hi. I'll begin things as we're going along, and then we will be going ahead and diving right on into the content in just a moment. So we're testing all waters here and running on a couple of hot spots and having a lot of fun.
Hi, everybody.
Okay.
I can't get my video to come up right now.
Okay. All right. We'll work on that some more in just a bit. All right. So thumbs up, Ben. Do you want to click to our next slide? Oh, my goodness. Remember what I had planned for this, huh? So this is one thing that we were talking about, and it's going to be really easy for you to do, Ben. We're going to go, I don't think I can from here, but at the bottom of your screen, you've got the polling question. Wait a minute. I think I might even be able, I can do it. There we go. I'm going to launch this poll. All right, folks. Technology does work even during all sorts of circumstances. Let us know who's here. Please just go right ahead and click on what your role is in education. I'll give it just a couple of seconds to kind of transpire so we can see if this is working. It looks like that particular computer bombed out on me, which was the one running the poll. Well, we may not be able to be that fancy today, huh? Ooh. Here's a poll. What's your role in? Okay, so you got it on up. Terrific. Thank you so much. That's what we all need. We need backup people. That's awesome. All right, so give it another moment or two. Let everybody kind of chime on in. We've got a lot of folks here today. There was a lot of folks that actually had registered, about over 300, and I'm sure that some of you may have been impacted, and hopefully you're all safe. All right, I think you can now close the poll and then post the responses, and we'll see who we've got here with us today. Let's see how that works. Awesome. Well, look at that. We've got mostly special education folks, transition specialists, and a few CTE people and some administrators. Awesome. And if there's anything else that is here and not represented, take a look at the chat. We really do want to make sure that we use your time wisely. So looking forward to learning more about what your needs might be. And if we can go to the next slide, then we're going to start off by talking about the current situation that we have all found ourselves in. It just seems, just like we're doing right now, that since March, we have all been building a bridge as we're racing across it, not just even walking across it, we're racing across it. So it has been really quite a time since March. And I speak with people and they tell me, oh, that was since March 18th for us, or March 11th. So everybody's got a different date in March, but it's pretty typically March 2020. And if you just click again for me, we found that this term just doesn't leave us, and that's the new normal. So if you click then for the next slide and one more, we're going to talk a little bit about the fact that, and this has a couple of clicks to it. So if you just click to open up the screen, our obligation as special educators is really very important. And we're talking about legal needs to comply with for FAPE, for least restrictive environments, for maintaining our IEPs and IEPs with transition plans, and all the while making sure that we've got equity and accessibility for all of our students. And now we've been asked to do that remotely, and in some cases it's hybrid, and or in some places we're going to try and figure out how we do it with a level of face-to-face. And of course, as we here at Education Associates feel really strongly about, the hands-on component of doing job prep is super important. So with that having been said, if we go to the next one, we're going to talk a little bit about all of those things today and try and weave together for you a real tapestry of options. And that's really what it's about. It's about making really good choices with the materials you have at hand based upon your expertise and the students that you've got in your class. So I'll just take a moment to tell you a little bit about Education Associates. We're really proud of the fact that this is our 40th year. And might I add, it's a really daunting year to be celebrating this big anniversary, but we're doing it with our bells on and everything kind of going on out there. And we're really excited about that as well. I think we have stood the test of time because of our adherence to these principles: hands-on learning, evidence-based practices, universal design for learning, alignment to both curriculum as well as to the transition and CTE skills. So really just that integration across the board, making it as easy as possible for teachers, thinking about every little detail like professional development. So I think that's why we stood the test of time. And if you go to the next slide, I'll tell you that the big thing is that you really don't have to believe me. We've actually been accredited by a number of different institutions, so including the Department of Education, approved and validated National Dropout Prevention Center. You can see some of the other ones on the screen here. And I won't read everything on the screen because y'all can do that. But the last one people usually stop and ask me about, and that's NOCTI, N-O-C-T-I, which is the National Occupational Competency Testing Institute. And it's really interesting, if you take a look at their site, they deal with various different verticals, and they're dealing with a number of different types of competency and certification programs within different industries and career tracks. We've worked with them pretty uniquely to develop competency-based digital badges, micro-credentialing for students with special needs. And I think it's unique. I don't think there's any other like that in around that I've seen. And if you click again, I'm going to tell you about the next thing that we're really, really excited about. It's really hot off the press, and that is this year we've been officially notified of our endorsement by the Council of Administrators for Special Ed. And if you're not familiar with that, very briefly, I'll tell you, it's really quite a bit. They have a very, very detailed set of rubrics, and it took us several months to go through it. And I think it was elongated because of COVID. But regardless, once you put your submission to show your research on these set of rubrics, they then ask you questions, and you have to defend those questions. So it's almost like a little mini dissertation. But there we are, and we've gotten the endorsement. So that just goes to say that our research has been validated by a very scrutinous body that I think really does a lot of lobbying and does a lot of networking in terms of what are the rules moving forward for special needs students and things that we need to pay attention to. So if we go to the next slide, I'm going to tell you a little bit about the curriculum. And if you've been with us over the past two, in June and July, I went into this in a little bit more depth. Today I'm going to do a little bit shorter because I do want to bring in our friend Pam from Minnesota. But basically, Project Discovery and Achieve Life Skills are the two sections of our curriculum. Project Discovery is here in green, and those are what we call our hard skills. Those are real hands-on career awareness, exploration, and job skills training. On the blue side there, the Achieve Life Skills, those are our life skills programs. So it's really, we call them our soft skills. We've got multimedia packets to go along with that in curriculum. And then if you'll go one further, you'll see that the titles in Project Discovery are really specific to various careers. So we've got career awareness for elementary age students, and by that I mean the maturity level of the students. And those are very big, broad terms, 11 titles, 55 different careers that go with that. You know, let's discover banking, let's discover construction, and so forth. Career exploration comes in several different types of flavors: beginning, intermediate, and advanced, as well as adapted. And these titles are about a month per title. They'll come with a pre and a post test, with skill-based and competency-based types of assessments. And they work with students that are from mild and moderate to very high functioning, from the beginning, intermediate, and advanced. And then the adapted series is really for our more severe and profoundly impaired students. And we'll talk more about the adapted series as we go through. Then over on the right, there is also our job skills. Those are more in-depth, full semester long, digging on into auto detailing or carpentry and so forth. So really full long semesters. That's the breadth of all the different topics that we've got. And then we'll show you a little bit more about the depth of it. And if you go to the next slide, this is what our life skills curriculum looks like. The life skills is 62 different titles that in 4 different areas. that really cover those types of things that, you know, students need not only just to get a job in our job and preparation unit, but also how to keep a job, right? Your appearance on the job and maintaining a positive attitude. And then we go into some social, emotional, and self-confidence, health and nutrition, and independent living skills. Lots of good things within here. They all work in concert with each other. And, you know, I think the big thing about that I can say is that they're used in lots of different ways. So if we go to the next slide, then, this is going to be a fun one. This is where we've got the video. Before you click on the video, down in your controller for your Zoom, you need to ask for the computer to play the audio. These are the little things that come on in. It could be under 3 dots, but it'll say play sound through my computer. And let's listen to Miss Schmidtke in Burnsville for a bit.
Hello, I'm Angela Schmidtke, a special education teacher at the Burnsville Transition Program in Burnsville, Minnesota. My class consists of 8 students with a range of mild to profound developmental disabilities, ages 18 to 21, working on their high school diploma. Today, we're going to be exploring the Project Discovery Adapted Grocery Clerking Kit. I've been using Project Discovery for 4 years, and it has made such a difference with my students in helping them learn about their career interests and gain job skills. First, we start with the pretest. I administer this using whole group instruction. We use the score report form to record their answers. This gives me a baseline for monitoring progress. Then we watch the first look PowerPoint, which introduces the key vocabulary terms and concepts of the kit activities. Today we'll watch activity 1 in the first look. There are a lot of great worksheets to support instruction for the module. I like to use them to continue teaching vocabulary. Now we're ready to start using the student instructions to complete the kit activities. The student instructions are provided in several ways for different levels of learners. First, I model and demonstrate the instructions by using the PowerPoint. Next, I show the group the video modeling of the activity. Video modeling is provided for each adapted activity, so students can see exactly what to do.
Materials you need from the kit. Paper grocery bags, plastic baggies, tissues.
Next, I'll lead the students through the visual schedule, which is an exact printout of what they saw in the video. They will watch as I do the activity. Now it's time for students to do the activity. They use the visual schedule to complete the activity. In the grocery clerking activity 1, we'll learn about bagging groceries. It may take more than once for a student to move toward mastery. For my class, I typically have 2 other stations of activities going on as students perform the tasks. There are so many activities in the module, and we like to do the bingo game and make a dictionary. As the student performs.
Okay, so that's Miss Schmidtke at, in Burnsville, Minnesota. And to go to the next slide, Ben, I think, you know, she is just a master teacher, and you can really see how well she is able to orchestrate all of the resources she has. And you can see, you know, even her support people, her paraprofessionals and co-teachers are right there to help her in so many ways. But when we were confronted with COVID earlier this year, we stopped and we asked ourselves, you know, how do we modify this, a hands-on approach for people who have to be now teaching remotely and hybrid? We went out, we started interviewing people and asking them what they were doing, because we're in, you know, we've been here for 40 years. We're in every state. We've got over 5,000 schools. So we were saying, what's working for you? And so that's what we're going to look at now. And then if you want to click to the next one, we're going to give you some of those examples. And then Pam is going to join me. She's going to talk about what she's been doing and working with us on things here. So we'll go on to the next, just see if that happens. You need to unmute yourself because I haven't seen a change of things, and my side kind of imploded. We go to the next one, which is the menu. We're going to go right to the best practices link there. You may have to unmute and tell me that you're there because I'm not seeing it.
Yeah, Joyce, I'm on Implementation Made Easy.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. So number one, when we started asking people and interviewing folks and looking around, we realized that the core curriculum that we had is really quite solid. And if you click once, wait a moment and click again, you'll see that we have very well thought out scope and sequence. We've always supported multiple ways of differentiating instruction. So whether you're doing a teacher-based small group session, you have students at learning centers, you're doing team teaching, self-directed, or remote learning 2020, we've always had those pieces. So it really became a matter of looking at those pieces a little bit more closely and figuring out what we do with that. So let's go to the next slide, and you'll see that before we even get on into it, one of the things that we hold near and dear to our heart is our teachers, who are really the experts at everything. You are where the rubber meets the road. So we have very well-defined professional development support. We've got nationally certified trainers. And so we've now taken a look at that and how we re-deliver that for remote types of teaching circumstances. And if you go to the next, we also realize that our program, especially the adapted version, has been modified with lots of really best practices from UDL. And I know I don't need to tell you all about UDL, but the point is that because we have multiple ways of representing information and multiple ways of allowing students to express themselves and multiple ways of engaging those students, you can pick and choose which of those methodologies and or resources are appropriate for the given students that you're working with and or the given situation, whether you're in a face-to-face class 2 days a week, or whether you're doing 100% remote and so forth. So it really can be in lots of different ways. If you go to the next slide, then you'll see, folks, that what we're really talking about is that there's a lot of options that are available to you, but the really important part is that there's consistency. The research I've been reading this summer has been talking about one of the biggest challenges during these shuttering of our schools has been the lack of structure, especially for students with special needs. So because our curriculum has been designed with that consistent structure in mind, it's really well because they don't know what to That's what I mean by this consistency within the structure. So if you go to the next one, then this is just like 2 little clicks. This is just really to talk about the fact that we want to make you know that we realize one size does not fit all. And we're really all about that, and we've always been. And if you click to the next, and on this one, you'll just need to click until the words come to an end, and you just take your time and just click, and it'll go through. When we first started investigating it, and when we first started trying to fit which modules fit in different ways, we were looking at the way people were defining remote teaching. And there's really the view of synchronous instruction, synchronous instructional time, as well as asynchronous instructional time. There's a lot of challenges with either, right? So with synchronous, you know, how can we possibly expect that students would be on a Zoom or Google Meet or whatever it might be for any length of time per day, especially our students who probably have time sitting in a regular classroom seat for more than 10 or 15 minutes, right? So there's a lot of considerations, the length of sessions, how do we deal with students who have no access to devices or to internet? How do we individualize or observe students and provide feedback? And that's a big one right there. How do we observe students and monitor their IEPs? And many districts just said, well, we can't be consistent, we can't be equitable, so we're just gonna create take-home packets. Okay, everybody go home and create 2 weeks worth of take-home packets, and that's what we'll send the students back with. And then of course, 2 weeks really became a little bit more than that. And so now we find ourselves looking at the different models as they're being fine-tuned. Many are a hybrid or blended approach. Some parts of the country which do not have any real big outbreaks of COVID are going full force for face-to-face. Other places have just immediately said we're going to go for a period of time 100% remote. And so that having been said, if we go to the next slide, let's talk about some specific remote teaching and learning tips and tricks, some of which came from Brooke Went, who's a job training coordinator at the Medina County Career Center in Ohio. And if you go to the next, Brooke helped us tell us a little bit about what she had been doing within her class. She was really using and taking advantage of the Google for Education, Google for Classrooms that they had at their district and their co-op. And so whether or not you have Google or you have Microsoft OneDrive or even Dropbox, it's all just fine. It doesn't really matter. Any sort of shared server works because we have relaxed our copyright rules. And if you see that little flash stick up at the top, that's the entire curriculum for any one of our sets, for one of our titles. So you can take that and put it onto your shared drive. And one of the tips that Brooke had said was to create individual folders for students, make it easier to individualize assignments and retrieve completed work. Because some of our lessons, or all of our lessons really come in different difficulty levels. So we might be teaching how to germinate seeds in our greenhouse kit, and we have a 2nd through 4th grade version of that in terms of reading difficulty, and we may have a 4th through 5th grade level of that. And so those are the types of things you could differentiate what you're putting into each individual student's work. And Jessica Domino asking to all panelists, I'm going to say yes, good question. Everything that's on that flash stick is provided not only in a PDF form, which is not editable, but also in an editable form. So whether it's Microsoft Word or PowerPoint, you can bring it on into Google Docs, you can bring it into just about anything you want. So you could further customize that. And I really don't know any company that lets you take their curriculum and modify it for the kiddo you've got in front of you, but this one does for sure. You'll see here on this slide that we also have materials that you can share with parents, an informational brochure so that they understand what the student is working on, as well as being able to maybe do a little, her suggestion is also to do a little bit of a short training to help the parents understand how they can do it at home. And we'll share more about that in just a second. So let's take a walk through some of our curriculum. On the next slide, you'll see one of the things that just about every one of our titles starts off with is a pre-test. It can also be used as a post-test. And I'm not going to click on it today, but what Brooke had shared with us is that she was taking them and dropping those pre-tests in this particular format into a Google form. And I did it in about 3 minutes. I was able to take it because it's copy and paste out of the editable file on the little green flash drive over onto my Google slide, 1, 2, 3, 4. And there's lots of options on that Google slide so that you can either give the student feedback or not give them feedback. For a pre-test, I probably wouldn't, but it allows you to capture that data for their performance immediately. And if you go to the next slide, you might be saying to yourself, well, that pretest is probably a little bit harder than most of my students can handle in my severe and profoundly impaired classes. You're right. Once again, our UDL kicks in because we have the pretests in the adaptive versions also provided with visual support. And click one more time to show the scorecard that would be able to be keeping track of the student's indication on any one of those questions, what the student was saying. So before you touch a baby, you should always wash your hands. Good answer. And then you would just mark that off, and that's how you would keep track for that particular instance. If we go to the next slide, you'll see that the next thing our curriculum starts on off with is a first look. And this is where we introduce the topic at hand. And so let's say you were doing the hybrid kind of a model or 100% remote. You're going to have some periods of time, theoretically, that would be synchronous, like what we're doing right now. We're all on the same web-based meeting together. So you could use one of these first looks and click again, you'll see another slide pop up, but that will share the basic overview of what this topic is about with the students. And so that's a great way to use your synchronous time. However, it's also something that you could put in their shared folder and allow them to access again asynchronously when they're by themselves to see it as many times as they need, because we all know that most of our students need to address the same topic a few times to really get it and to really be in part of that. And so let's just see. So if we click to the next slide, you'll see that you could also take that same first look PowerPoint or slide deck, and you could present it in a paper format. If you want to save a forest, you can put more than one image on a page. If that's too clumsy or cluttered, you could click again here and show 2 per page. So that's some options for if you have to do things with take-home packet. So I'll sum up for a little bit here. If you go to the next slide, then, which should have the beautiful picture of lemonade on there. My video is completely off now, so I can't see. But on that, the lemonade slide, you just click a little bit. This kind of summarizes some of those synchronous learning time options. There's direct instruction where you could show, let's say, the first look or the introduction of activities or doing video modeling. You could do something like a little flipped classroom with that too. So the video work be done independently. And then you could do our activities. We have various different activities. We have role play, we have situation cards, we have a lot of different worksheets that are available. You could do that in the classroom as well, or you can do that at home. Another use for synchronous time might be to host office hours for students and for parents. And finally, you could use it for social time, sharing the social stories that they might be creating about how how the student is doing activities that are in the kit. And we'll talk about what some of those options for doing activities at home look like in just a second. You could also do it for a little show and tell. So I hope that kind of gives you a little bit of background there. I'm going to turn it on over to Pam now. And so if you click one more time, Pam, tell us a little bit about what you've been working on and basically what was working for you this past spring.
Well, it was quite a journey, let me tell you, to figure it all out at first. I found myself, I had recently retired actually in November from the school district I worked in for decades. And when the schools closed in Minnesota, the teacher that had taken my place quit. And so I was hired to jump back in distance learning. And so I really found immediately that the biggest thing is what's up there is just keep calm, just relax, and really, really work hard to simplify everything. Because, hang on, I'll share my video. Yes, I will do that for you. Hi there. Hi, everybody.
There she is. Hi.
Yeah, I'm in Brainerd, Minnesota. I taught in the Crosby-Ironton School District for, well, it was 32 years and then ended up being almost 33 years because I ended up going back and working with them some more. But I found out right away that it was pretty tough, more for the parents than it was really for the kids or even the paraprofessionals that I had worked with for many years. The learning curve with technology was extremely challenging for those folks, for those parents. There were, parents that couldn't even, they didn't know how to even get to Google. They didn't know how to log onto their student's Chromebook. They couldn't remember the passwords. We would send several documents and try a variety of ways. We would do phone calls. We would do text messaging. We would do FaceTime. So it was really challenging to just get the parents to be okay with what was happening. And it was really tough stuff. So I'd say my biggest thing is simplify. Don't make it too hard, because you've got parents that some of them, literally they have a phone, and some of the parents still had flip phones. And that's what they were using. And so for them to be able to do a lot of what I was asking them to do right away was really very difficult. So simplify. Ben, go ahead on to the next. Yeah, I think for myself, I have always in my education, I just finished my 36th year teaching. And I am really a proponent of, no matter what your situation is, whether it's what we're all experiencing right now or some other unprecedented event in the life of the family or in the school district or in your program or whatever it is, stay true to those goals, stay true to the needs that those students have, and do the very best you can to figure out how to make all that happen. So one of the suggestions, that I had been sharing with other teachers is if you have IEP goals, transition goals that are somewhat specific, do an amendment, change the goal to make it a little bit more vague. That's what I ended up doing, was just to create a little bit more vagueness so I could use different materials that the family might have available that, we didn't use in the school, or they don't have it at home and we did use it in the school, or whatever it was. So that, for instance, if the goal might be more about compliance in a work setting, and the goal doesn't necessarily read that way, and if you need to tweak it a little bit, then ask for an amendment and do that. Otherwise, just think out of the box about, okay, how can so-and-so have more compliance in this work situation when we're getting them career ready in the home. The other big thing is that I ran into is, as I'm sure all the educators know, is home and work, or I'm sorry, home and school are so crazy different. Things that I knew students could do in the school setting, they were absolutely not doing in the home. And so, trying to figure out ways to make that work and mesh was a bit of a challenge. But I always try to stay true to those IEP goals. Don't let those go. And whatever you do, work hard to make sure that you're still focusing on that transition. Anyway, that's sort of my little soapbox thing, is don't let go of those transition goals, no matter how hard this looks like it's going to be, because all of it can get worked through. Ben, can you?
Yeah,
and
they were saying the same thing there was a case town hall last Friday, and they were saying the same thing, Pam. They were saying, take a look at the transition goals, take a look at all your IEP goals, and simplify them, make them so that you can be able to deliver them in lots of different kinds of formats. So, yeah, that's really important. We don't want to ditch the IEP for any period of time. It's already been too long.
Well,
So.
I think it's really, we get into this, as everybody knows who survived last spring, is it's a survival mode. I mean, really, you're just like, oh Lord, how's this gonna look? And then for me, it was utilizing the paraprofessionals, not being able to get into my building, and accessing materials that way, and just getting very creative in how we were going to provide that. But I always stayed true to the IEP. The IEP is based on what the needs of the student are, and it should drive your programming. You're going to provide the best programming if you utilize the IEP the way the IEP is intended, and just think out of the box about how you can make that instruction happen, and be really flexible. That's sort of like, I'm sure there's a lot of other teachers right now are shaking their heads going, yep. That's what I had to do myself. So, and yeah, this slide, keep transition moving forward. There, I was able to use the food service kit myself in the distance learning format. So I looked at, for instance, like not all the activities worked. For instance, I looked through the curriculum because I had the flash drive actually at home. So I was able to plug it in and take a look at what all the curriculum was without going into my building and having the binder in my hand, and go, okay, it looks like for me, like activities 1, 3, and 4, we're going to be able to work in the home. And so then I reached out to the parents of the kids that had those transition goals that would be addressed through me using the food service kit. And okay, what do you have in the home? So we would have conversations. There was one mom who I just said, you know what, let's do FaceTime right now, and just walk me through your kitchen if you don't mind. And we just did a little visual tour of the kitchen, so I could figure out, okay, what does she have tool-wise, what's going to work so that we can make these activities work. And then I did a variety of things with that particular kit. What I love about project discovery kits is that it's all there. I am a #1 fan of the adapted. I firmly believe that the adapted kits will give you all the tools that you need for universal design for learning. I think it's worth a little extra investment financially in going with the adapted kit versus just, you know, the general kit. So for anybody out there, I totally say do the adapted if you can. Not all of the topics do have adapted kits, but the ones that do, I would say go for those. Very helpful, because you do have, for anybody who's on the autism spectrum, for instance, you've got the video modeling component in there. You have videos that are already done that you don't have to create yourself, where for some of the other kits that don't have the adapted, you do have to create some of those. So anyway, I'm rambling on and on and on, but there's
that's
help,
good. So
Joyce.
that's really, yeah, that's really what it's about, because it's, as I said in the beginning, it's about using your expertise to look at these materials. I've oftentimes had people who said to me, well, you know, how does a student respond to the activity in food service, you know, and so forth. Our curriculum is not intended to be one of those computer programs that you sit a student behind and they're going to click, 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 and, you know, just kind of go through and make choices or whatever it is. These are intended to be hands-on curriculum that students actually really use the real tools of the trade. So when Pam is saying that she had the parent go through the kitchen, we're looking to see where your plates, your cups, your silverware is, so that we can teach them how to set the table. And then we're looking to take a look and say, well, if the student was going to come on in now and give you a glass of water and take your, give you a menu and then take your order like a server, how do we set that up? And those types of experiences to help provide as close to real work experiences. And here's a couple of others. I think Ben just kind of flashed by there. The greenhouse kit. We have certain activities that we've looked through our curriculum to find elements that would be easily found around the house. So that little greenhouse is a shoebox, and it's got some soil and some seeds that have been planted with some little sticks to kind of keep the saran wrap off of that. And you can create a little bit of a greenhouse and talk about seed germination, and it's part of our curriculum. So we address those things in the curriculum. It's something you can do and make at home. The slide after that is from our skin and nail care careers kit. What can you do within that? This happens to be a very popular kit, as you can well imagine. But we've actually gone through and dug into our curriculum. And Ben, if you go ahead on up to the next slide, and if you click right in the middle of that slide, it's going to launch your browser, because you've got bandwidth, I don't, and you'll be seeing our website. We have taken things that Pam has done, things that we've garnered from other people, and you'll see on here as you scroll through, we've got, I would just call it a cheat sheet on how you can take this curriculum apart and bring it to home. So Pam, you've been doing some of that for us as well. You want to talk a little bit about the types of things that you were looking at and what you've been trying to do, while Ben just kind of scrolls down this gently.
Yeah, I see Maureen there. I'm questioning, and I see Ben gave you a link, Maureen. The adapted kit offers, for instance, a lot more like bingo games, situation work cards, worksheets, a lot of different worksheets that you can really use to enrich whatever activity, reinforce the activity that you're working on. And my area of my biggest love is working with the low incidence population. And that's what I did in the Crosby-Arrington School District for the 32 years. I've done LD, EBD, OHD, all that stuff too. But really, the low incidence population is where I love to be. And there are so many pieces, Maureen, to the adapted that you just don't have to create. You know, you don't have to go on to Teachers Pay Teachers. Not that I'm not saying don't do that, but I'm just saying this is a curriculum that already has stuff there, and you're not trying to recreate the wheel. And that's what I really love about the adapted kits myself. So anyway, the other piece about what I've been doing with Education Associates is we took a look at a few different curriculums. Food service is one of the curriculums. Caregiving is one of them. Cleaning is one of them. Caregiver is one of them, I believe. And then there's Holly Myers is doing one as well. And we just really looked at, okay, if if we were able to use this kit in the classroom setting this year with the 6-foot distances and, mask wearing and shields and sanitizing and whatever, how could the test be done? The pre-test, how could the first look be offered? How could the modeling of the activities, what would that look like? What would the actual activities look like? What activities would be good to do? What activities would probably be ones you want to stay away from? And then we looked at what the hybrid model, if we use that, those kits would look like. And then if we had to go total remote, what that would look like. And so we've just been, you're welcome, Maureen, I saw that, thank you. We're just really trying to figure out so that you don't have to, which is what, for me, when I took the food service kit this spring, I was scrambling. I was, just on the flash drive on my computer, and I was calling my paraprofessionals. I had 2 of them back in the classroom, and just to let you know, I was on a medical leave issue, so I couldn't get into the building. Some people could, but I couldn't at that time. So they were at school and they were pulling stuff for me. We were FaceTiming a lot. Use your paraprofessionals, by the way. They want you to raise the bar for them. They want to do more than just make copies. So I utilize them a lot. But anyway, back to what Education Associates is offering is and working on is just specifically taking these kits, breaking them down for you so you don't have to do what I did this spring for myself with that food service kit, which is, I think it's going to be a godsend, honestly, for a lot of teachers out there. Yeah.
Yeah. It's really one of those things that as I've gone into schools, people have said, this is the type of thing that I used to stay up late at night putting together.
Yes. Yes, exactly.
And I remember those days where I'd be, cutting out all the items for the students to be able to put onto the schedule or whatever it might happen to be that I had them working on so they could take a look at it. So it's all of that stuff put on in there. And though, our goal here today was really to sort of address some of those integration strategies. If you're really curious and you want to learn more about this curriculum, we offer just on-demand webinars. So you go on up to our site and, Ben, maybe you want to show one of those slides or sites there. And even on that one slide that we were showing, that one web page rather, that had our hands-on curriculum, on just about every page it says, click here to schedule a webinar. And that will lead you to a way that you can actually look at a calendar of times available and go ahead and schedule a webinar. We'll actually look at examples from each of the activities that seem most appropriate for your students. It's a very customized thing. Most people will come into one of those as a team. They will, so it's usually, the director of special ed will come in with their transition specialist and maybe a couple of teachers and so forth. So they'll come on in for that. But you can see right there on the bottom of that screen, and here on this one here, schedule a personal Zoom overview. So that's totally available to you all as you're going on through.
And I'd just like to add something. I'm going to just do a little for Joyce. I have had the wonderful opportunity to work with her recently. And I just want to say for all of you teachers out there, she is a wealth of information and really knows what she's talking about, not kidding. And if I was in any of your shoes and didn't know about how to do any of this or didn't even have these kits yet or wasn't sure about purchasing or anything, she really knows what she's doing and can really help you out. So thank you, Joyce, for being.
You're making me blush, but my video doesn't show.
I'm not kidding, and I'm not getting paid to say that. So
thank you so much. Well, it's actually a mutual admiration club because I've learned so much from you as well. And our Chief Academic Officer, Shelley Moore at Education Associates, we really all are using the best practices that we can see, what works as best as possible to help you all. You've got the most important jobs that are out there. So I'm having a little bit of an issue in trying to see all of the chat questions. Are there any other questions out there that we should be looking at? I see one from Lynn who's saying, is there a cost for the curriculum? Yes, there is. So we can get you more information if you want to either go for a webinar. You can do that off of our website, or you can just put in, there's a contact us on the website, and we can absolutely go ahead and send that on through. Thank you, Nilja. I appreciate that as well. And for some reason, I'm not able to scroll back to what I know are a whole bunch of different questions. Just really challenged on this today. So Ben or Pam, do you see other things that we may not have addressed within here?
Somebody just said, how does the student respond in a Google form? I think Ben might have addressed that, but you know, if a student knows how to use a Chromebook or a laptop, they click. It's just a matter of a click, and then the answers get stored automatically. One thing that's nice about using Google Forms as well is that you get a nice spreadsheet, automatic. It generates a spreadsheet for you for when you're looking at answers as well. So that's kind of a cool little piece if you're a little techie out there. Just kind of looking through some of these other ones here. Ben, is there anything that we missed, or are you getting it all?
I'm trying.
Okay.
Answer the questions and answer them for everybody when appropriate. I'm going to launch a poll before everybody jumps off, though, just so we can.
Oh, great.
Fun right here at the end.
You know,
Let's do that. That's fun.
One of the things, you know, Case is really promoting and you know, in person for those students who are really in that low incidence population. This fall, they are one of the organizations that's really promoting to get those kids into the building. So if like a district is doing a hybrid model, you know, say 2 days, they're actually looking at getting those low incidence kids in there all 4 days during the week. And there's definitely ways that you can use these kits. Just, you know, for instance, I would suggest, like, if you have a small group, maybe you're using like 2 kits at a time. You've got one group doing a kit, another group doing a kit, and you've got sanitizing issues going on. And it's also a way you can teach kids how to clean things by having them doing the sanitizing. And so for those of you that are going to be looking at actual full in, you know, in buildings, I know a lot of northern Minnesota is going to be doing that. There are definitely ways that this can happen. I feel really good about that. And I think we can offer a lot of information for you and some ideas and tips and stuff. So keep that in mind as well.
And I agree. That's all teachable moment kind of stuff, because we really want to make sure that they know how to do that independently when they leave, right? So that's a whole other set of skills that we want to address. And I know that the team is kind of looking at those things as well.
Yep.
Good, great. Were there any other questions or things that we needed to address? Because if not, we've got a couple of moments. We're doing the poll here. What will the fall semester 2020 look like in your district? So if you click around and answer your answers here, and then we'll give it a moment or two because it's been up, and you can close out the poll, and let's see what folks are saying, because that's informational for us as well. So once you close it out, then you can, wow. Look at that, folks. 100% remote for a period of time. That is tending to be what we're seeing. And there's a 51%, we call it a majority from everybody who's here. Thank you very much for voting, but that's quite a bit.
And I
really
can say from my experience,
data.
you can use the kits with 100% remote. There's just a lot of variety in how you're going to do it, but you can do it, and the curriculum's already set up for you. So that's what I like about it.
Absolutely. And I loved your comment also about using your Power Pros, because they really, they want to be helpful. And these materials lend themselves to being able to say, all right, I'm going to introduce this using the first look. Let's go through that with the small group. But then I know you need to go back to Carlos, because we know that Carlos needs to hear it again. So just go back and do exactly what I did and use this first look to go back through it with him. And then you can give them the worksheets and let's walk them through that. And, you know, they would love that. That's something I think, you know, I can see them really embracing.
Absolutely. And one of the things I found is, you know, we all know that parents tend to not give us the truest picture of the level of independence of their child, because their lens is different than ours. And so when in these kits, you have benchmarks for progress. And I found that having a paraprofessional go on, you know, do a Google Meet with a student or two students and have the family, you know, right there, the parents right there, and working through the benchmarks with them, so that I've got the paraprofessional sort of taking the data versus just the parent, a little bit more validity offered to the benchmarks. And it's also a way that the paraprofessionals, in my opinion, also feel like they're part of the team. They're part of what's happening, part of the process. They're not just, again, making copies and cutting out things, but they can actually be part of that remote process as well.
And those benchmark performance benchmarks are very eye-opening for parents, because, for instance, setting a table has 16 steps. We've done the task analysis to it, and you know, parents will say, "Well, my child can't, you know, set the table," or of course my child can set the table. You've got those two different kinds of parents out there, helicopter parents, right? And when they see that it's really 16 steps, they realize, oh, so we really need to pay attention to that level of detail. And they say, yes, absolutely, because that's only activity number one. Activity number two is taking an order. So they have to be well suited in setting a table before they go to the next activity. And they begin to realize that it is something that we need to repeat until the student can do it independently, right? Initially, they may be able to do it with some verbal prompting, or maybe you're doing hand over hand, but ultimately we want them to get to do it independently. And so that's one thing I think it's really a good point that you brought up. Another thing before we close is I'll just say that I know that everybody has all these different models that we're going back to school with this year, and it is challenging, but keep in mind for yourself, for your own social emotional well-being, hopefully it's just this year. Maybe it's even just this semester. So I always just kind of say, this too shall end, right? And we'll be fine. Ultimately, we just need to adhere to these SMART rules, listen to the science, and do what we can for our students any way we can. Then if you could figure out how to navigate to slide number 44, I want to close it out with something I found this morning, because I'm a real big, strong believer in silver linings. And it's not just because I haven't been able to dye my hair in 6 months, just saying. And let me know when